So I know this is going to sound like a broken record at this point, but this is getting completely out of hand. The amount of people who don't seem to get the issue that most gamers have, most consumers of this kind of content have, with the uglification of women. It's obvious. It's been right in front of our face for years now. We've been watching it happen both in video games and in Hollywood, and yet they still want to deny that it exists. And then when it finally gets to the point where they can no longer deny it, then they want to say, oh no, but this is a good thing, go touch grass. So all of this has kind of come to a boiling point due to this one game, Star Wars Outlaws. And of course, it's a game that's, I'm sure, going to sell tens of copies. And the funniest thing about it is there have been so many hot takes from all over the place about this character that was modeled after a beautiful woman. And in the trailers, most of the stills and screenshots you see are not that flattering, okay? Even the best looking ones do not do the model any justice. But the funniest thing now is you have people like this former Riot Games concept artist, Michael Marino, coming out and saying that people have an obligation to advance social justice and diverse representation in gaming. Now, these are old statements of his from 2020 that Park Place has in this article down below here. But the funniest thing is that this guy, this concept artist, did this thread yesterday, I believe it was. This long-winded thread going on and on and on about making female characters in games and how hard and complex it is and how basically anybody who doesn't understand it is just the worst kind of person possible. And in response, he pretty much got destroyed by everybody who actually knows anything about what he's talking about. So this guy here, Alejandro Argandona, says the thread spends a long time explaining the nuances of character modeling and 3D scans, yet misses the point entirely. Most likely on purpose. Somebody wanted her to look like Luther from the Warriors. That's it. It has nothing to do with smoothing, symmetry for rigging, etc. And that's the thing. A lot of what this guy argues in this thread has to do with the lighting and shading and makeup and contouring and all these things that, yes, play a factor. But it doesn't explain why it only happens to women models in games and not the male counterpart. For whatever reason, male counterparts don't seem to have that issue. And it's not just because men don't wear makeup. Plenty of men in Hollywood wear makeup. And most of these actors, before they went into the studio, I'm sure had a certain amount of foundation or makeup on. That's just, unfortunately, the way Hollywood rolls. So, of course, you also have people coming out saying things like, you know, IRL makeup is like painting on a normal and AO map. Primer, foundation, contouring, highlights can completely change your perception of a face. And these are very valid, very true things. But it does not change the fact that after the face is scanned in, if there are blemishes and things that need to be fixed, the artists themselves have to be able to fix them. They have to be able to glamorize them. Just like makeup does for a woman in real life, the makeup artist or the effects artist, visual artist in the game, needs to have the skill or the desire to make the character that look that way. So the craziest part, though, is if you get down here to the meat and bones of this article about this Michael Marino guy, apparently back in 2020, he considered himself something of an activist. So going back to 2020, he stated, extremely lukewarm take. As a game developer, a manufacturer of cultural content which specializes in resonance, you have an obligation to advance social justice and diverse representation. You are not just making art. You are participating in the formation of bedrock. There was a time we could resort and rest on the creation of aesthetics of the known. That time has passed. As stewards and bookkeepers of artifacts both widely consumed and niche, artists, writers, designers have a responsibility to wrap diversity and justice in the consumable. What he's saying here is these people behind these games, artists, developers, that's their responsibility to take the medium, the video game itself, and cram as much of their own ideology about social justice and diversity and inclusion into it as possible. Challenging ideas of what's commonly, you know, the aesthetics that are commonly known. That's the craziest part, because this is from 4 years ago, and yet here we are talking about this very situation today. He says, social justice, whether it be gender, class, race, is a prevailing wind, are those which are inevitable. Looking around to suggest the last few days makes salient the tide despite whatever obstacles are placed in its path crash against shoddy premises of institutional resistance. The pedantic and irrelevant cry of the SJW agenda is not only a tired one, but one of desperate grasping of dying cultural relevance. So basically, anybody who has an issue with the screeching SJWs, you just represent dying cultural relevance to this guy. Funniest thing, too, is that the art of Psychonauts 2 author, so a woman that apparently wrote a book about the art from Psychonauts 2, Ashley Ascada, has recently come out and said, "Weirdo clown men, please meet a human woman with bones challenge." Okay, so because she's saying that this manly jaw here is created by female bones, comparing it to her own face. And again, not much similarity there. Ironically, though, if you remember, Psychonauts 2's director was this woman, Lizette Montgomery, who claimed that the video game executives have given up the industry to angry racists and sexist. And she called she called gamers, I think it was rapist colonizers or whatever. So clearly the people from Psychonauts 2 are a little unhinged. Moving on to this other article from that Park Place from today, you have video game marketer Chris Heins attacking gamers as spiteful failsons and wishes Gamergate dorks would fade into oblivion. Now, here's the funny thing about Mark and his company. So, Mark is the co-founder of, I believe it's called Ignition. Ignition Facility. Okay. So Mark said this tweeted this earlier today, vibrating intensely as I manifest the reality where everyone just ignores all these Gamergate dorks and they fade into oblivion. They are a vanishingly small segment of spiteful failsons who simply can't shut the F up. Now, again, the funny thing about about Chris, is Chris, just like this guy here, Michael Marino, is that they both have worked at Riot Games in the past. So for whatever reason, people that work at certain studios like Riot Games, like Ubisoft, they just have a knack for having a certain political ideology. I can't claim that they were hired because of that ideology or that they succeeded because of that, but there's a very weird underlying ideology among all these people that are coming out from the woodworks today, screeching about how all these Gamergate chuds just need to just drop off the face of the earth. So the funniest thing, though, is that Chris Heins here, the former Amazon, Riot Games, and Play One More Game employee, started this Ignition Facility. Ignition Facility, essentially what it is a marketing team designed to help you hype your game, connect you with, play testers and events, and to get you Discord management and channel moderation, and to plug you in with influencers to make your game succeed, right? Basically, it's not the same thing as the whole Sweet Baby Inc. thing where they were just consulting on how to be culturally relevant. This is, hey, we're going to go launch your game for you, make your game successful. And you can see down here they have who they've worked with: League of Legends, Warhammer Online, Champions Online, New World, Amazon Game Studios. So clearly he's got an in at Amazon because of his time working there. Ironically, Joe Blancato here, who is his co-founder of this Ignition Facility, has some weird tweets if you go back to about 2021. And again, I'm not saying he's not allowed to have whatever political opinion he wants. The thing that we need to remember in all this is if you go on my Twitter, you're going to find my hot takes. You go on anybody's Twitter, go back far enough, you're going to see their Twitter hot takes on Twitter. I don't care what your political beliefs are or where you stand on most issues, but it is an insight into the mind of the person who modern day is, let's just say, an activist or acting as an activist for a certain ideological agenda. So you have, going back to his Joe Belancato's tweets from about 2021 before you really get to anything political. And then there's tweets about Ted Cruz. You got tweets about Tucker Carlson here. You've got things about our justice system being corrupt. You have him talking about George Floyd and all sorts of things. And so he's got tweets about things like this Echo supports for unhoused neighbors. And then you've got the Green New Deal stuff. And so, yeah, there's a lot of this. And it's like, okay, I get it. He's of a different political persuasion than I am per se, fine. But the thing that just jumps out at me is how so many of these people all fall under the same ideological umbrella. And they are all the same people lying and screeching about how we're not making ugly women and that these women are beautiful. But then when they finally admit that they're making the women ugly, they go, yes, but it's okay. You should make them ugly and you should be happy with them being ugly because you're not allowed to have pretty women in your video games anymore. It's very weird. It's a lot of weirdness going on right now. And I'd like to be able to move on to make videos about other stuff too. Like maybe we'll start talking about actual video games again one of these days, because this stuff is just getting depressing, to be honest. It's a little depressing. It's a little sad to see. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I was able to inform and entertain you guys, and I will see you on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have two channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.